racing right now.
He's got traction, he's going around the outside of both of them! Maloney!
Oh, he's taken Anderson! Anderson's up top!
Oh my god! Big crash! Oh my goodness, half the field's going to get rolled!
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go!
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my god!
God, what?
Welcome one, welcome all to SimSpeed TV one last time here in the Geodesic Omologato Championship, the 8th and final round of the season at Sebring International Raceway. We've got a regular 90-minute race coming up for you very shortly with prototype and GT action. We're currently in qualifying for the GT class. We've got 2 titles to decide. All 3 championships are up for grabs. The Prototype Championship, the GT Championship, and the Gentleman's Championship. So we're going to be seeing winners either way. It's all going to be decided here on the bumpy runways and access roads of Sebring International Raceway. For SimSpeed TV, I am Reese Gardner. And joining me as usual in the commentary box is David Haynes. David, it's been a difficult and hard-fought championship for a lot of these drivers, but it all comes down to this here in Florida.
Yeah, precisely. Some domination early in the season from our prototype and GT leaders, but eventually the streaks were ended. We've seen some other drivers come through, grab some wins, and bring the balance back towards contending for a title here at the final round.
Indeed. I cannot wait for things to get going here. It's an incredible circuit here at Sebring International Raceway. It is sports car mecca, really, in America. Aside from the likes of Daytona International Speedway, it is in the same state, but Sebring is located smack bang in the middle of Florida, right there. Formerly U.S. Army Air Force Base Hendricks, which is where the B-17 Flying Fortress was learnt during the Second World War. There is the runways of what is now the municipal airport, and Sebring International Raceway, of course, using the old access roads. It's undergone many layout changes over the years, first opening in 1950 with a layout very different from the one that you see here. But David, it keeps all of that character. It's got a fast first turn and last turn, and many bumpy twisties along the way.
That's exactly right. Respect the bumps. They make it very difficult around here. They make it difficult to set up the car depending on what suspension adjustments you have available to you. But of course, some key overtaking opportunities here. Turn 1, turn 7 at that hairpin can often be quite narrow and a very big braking zone. That's always a place to watch out for some excitement. Good thing that the people at the hotel there have a great view of that corner and that overtaking place.
They absolutely do, and you've got to be careful of the northern part of the circuit from turn 10 at Collier to turn 13 at Tower. That's one of the places where the prototypes passing the GTs is going to be a little more difficult. The track is very narrow in that spot, and Tower Turn having a lot of bumps through it as per usual. But Sebring is a challenge to wheel any car around. Let's take a brief look at the watch we're highlighting from our series sponsor, Omologato, for this final round of the championship. Omologato motorsport-inspired watches, and it is the Can-Am. This is the watch that we're going to be highlighting today, and another beautiful timepiece from Omologato. Of course, it's inspired by the old Can-Am series, and the colours on the dial apparently come from the McLaren and Lola Can-Am cars, and the digit fonts from the numbers used on the side of those cars. And there's a little bit of a tribute to a friend of Omologato's, Henry, who was killed in a motorcycle accident in March 2018. The hashtag Fever, they've made it for Henry, and absolutely a beautiful watch. As per usual, what we'd expect from Omologato, it's wonderful.
Yep, a great fit for this too, because Can-Am was a real golden era of sports car racing. Huge horsepower, sometimes wings sprouting off here and there. The cars got very, very quick and in not much time at all. So it was a time in sports car racing a lot of people look back fondly on. A lot of those cars still racing in historic competition because people so love them. They went fast, they made great noises. You think about insane horsepower numbers that were being made by some turbocharged Porsches, and of course sometimes big block Chevrolet powered McLarens, all of those good things that can still ignite passion with a modern motorsport enthusiast as well, because they are timeless pieces of machinery. And I guess you can see where that goes into the watch now being a timeless piece of machinery that harkens back to that era.
And keeps time itself. And we still have our promotion going. You can receive a free silicone wristband at checkout on the Omologato website if you use the promo code SPEED2021 at checkout. There is also a giveaway active, David. Twitter is involved, and it's open to anyone watching, also to drivers. And, well, you can win an Omologato watch if you play your cards right.
Yeah, exactly. You can get involved. What you've got to do is you've got to head to the Twitter page for Omologato, find any of their tweets, basically, and the wording here is follow and retweet the Omologato Twitter account. That's at Omologato Oro. And also tag Geodesic Racing, Gomez Sim Industries, and Connections Global. The winner will be drawn at the end of round 8. That's today. It's open to drivers or spectators, anyone who doesn't win one of the championships today. So I think if you go and, well, I know if you go and check out my Twitter at Haynes Racing, I've gone and posted it there, all of the instructions from the series admins, Carlos Villa, on how you can make an entry, be in the draw to win a very, very nice watch from Omologato.
Indeed. Well, we're going to have yet another winner today, if that is indeed the case. Here is the Prototype Championship standings. It's a two-horse race between Marcus Deck and Graham Sanders. Both have constructed some fantastic seasons in the Dallara P217. Championship situation is if Marcus Deck wins today, the title is his. If Graham Sanders wins the race, he needs Deck to finish third or lower in order to take the title. So it's a pretty simple situation there. We have got Hayden Gober, Jason Gotter, and Andrew Berry, plus Tyson Meyer, all there in the session as well. They're not competing for the outright title, but there will surely be a little bit of jostling between them for those extra final championship points. It's a bit more of a complicated situation in the GT standings, though. Dakota Fripp leading by 11 points from Tristan Iglesias. If Dakota wins, the title is his. If Iglesias wins, he needs Fripp to finish third or lower. And if Spencer Kostovich wins the race, he needs both Fripp and Iglesias to finish off the podium. But that is a bit of an outside shot.
I'm quite happy that you did the sums on this one. But yeah, exciting, still up for grabs. Anything can happen in sports car racing. It's a long race, etc., etc. So we got to keep an eye on the pressure for our championship leaders, who both still need to bring this one home. Nothing is guaranteed until that checkered flag waves.
Certainly not, and the Gentleman's Championship is still up for grabs as well for the least amount of incident points gained throughout the season. Corey McLemore suffered a bit of a hit. He was dominating the Gentleman's Championship before last round at Hockenheim, but an incident has brought Anthony Rossimano and Dakota Fripp right into it. And it looks like Johan Boyson is competing here today as well. So if he has an absolutely perfect race and there's a big crash for the three guys in front of him, then he has a shot at winning the gentleman's title as well. So we'll try our best to keep you updated on that as the race goes on. But either way, 3 championships ready to be decided here at Sebring. And before we get into the racing action, think it's a good idea to check out the pole lap for each of our classes. Marcus Deck has put it on pole once again in the prototype class. In terms of one lap pace, he has been the man to beat, though Graham Sanders has picked him to pole once or twice this season. But you can really get a sense here how bumpy Sebring is. It's very difficult to control the prototype with its super firm suspension out of the last turn. But coming into turn one, very difficult to pick your line. You've got to be careful on the exit because the track really narrows up and there's gravel right there to gather you up. You've got to go for a late apex here into turn 3 and then through turn 4 and turn 5, transitioning to concrete and back to asphalt. Really love this circuit. Through the big bend, Marcus Deck goes. And the hairpin is a very difficult braking zone. There's a surface transition right there, and your braking point is basically different every single lap. This is the Fangio chicane, and chicane I think is a bit of a liberal term because it's just a flat out right and left kink into turn 10 at Collier. This is a really difficult turn. You've got to go all the way down to first gear there, and the car tends to understeer and then get into oversteer as you go through the turn. Slightly missing the apex at Tower, but he's kept it gathered up, and through the turns leading up to Le Mans, completely flat out in any car, but you've got to go all the way down to third, possibly second gear, depending on how comfortable you are for this sequence of turns. A nice exit using all of the curb, getting onto the Ullman straight, named for Alec Ullman, the sports car racer who conceived of racing at Sebring in the first place all the way back in the late 1940s. Run out wide and then bring it in tight again for Sunset Bend, and very obvious as to why it is called Sunset Bend. We're racing in late afternoon to early evening conditions here, with Marcus Deck setting a 1:45.624, and that's given him pole there by 0.6 of a second.
Yeah, good performance. I think key to that is it didn't really wow me in any places, but it was consistent and it stayed on the track for a big lap here. So that's obviously a key to Sebring. Is it wasn't wild or out of control. It was measured. It was 99.9% of the grip and the speed, and that was good enough. Smooth is fast sometimes. That was our pole in the prototype class. In a second, we're going to get our GT pole, and that's probably also going to look just as bumpy, if I'm honest.
Yes, indeed. Dakota Fripp driving the Audi R8 GT3, which has a pretty firm suspension set up itself, and Dakota Fripp has been given a bit of a free kick here because Tristan Iglesias has missed out on qualifying up the front. He's only gone 6th in GT3, so Dakota Fripp starting his lap here down into 4th gear for the first turn, and almost washing out on the exit. It's very difficult to get the power down out of there. Very fast and tight, and taking a bit of an earlier apex coming into turn 3. That's interesting. With turn 5, nice clean exit over the curb, and the flat out run through Big Bend. The transition between turns 3 and 4 is going to be difficult for the prototypes to negotiate GT traffic as they move across the circuit. A very nice run through the hairpin and out of the chicane on the exit. Dakota certainly seems to have this car sorted out. He's ended up taking pole by nearly 0.5 of a second, and this is one of the places where he would have gained a lot of that time. A nice clean run through Collier, just avoiding the curbs, keeping the car nice and level through these twisty sections of the lap, and down into Tower, nailing the apex through there. Fantastic to see. And the rest of this lap, just a case of negotiating 4 more turns effectively. Easy braking zone using all of the curb on the inside. Running nice and wide through the runoff area to open up the entry into Le Mans corner, and the sun right in Dakota Fripp's eyes as he goes down the straight.
I love Tower Bend so much when you just hook a little bit of that camber. The rest of the track is very flat, not smooth, but relatively flat, relatively level. So as you see him rotate the car across some of the bumps, find that bump on the apex in Sunset Bend, but still hold his line, keep it smooth, and then head towards completing the fastest lap we saw in qualifying. Yeah, Tower Bend with just that little bit of camber where you want to get towards the apex but don't want to hit the curb. That's another one of those challenging corners where there is a good line and the rest of the lines are not quite so great. It requires a lot of precision.
Indeed it does. The majority of this track requiring a lot of precision indeed. Well, qualifying is now over. The drivers just in the last couple of minutes of their briefing, and now we can take a bit of a rest and consider what the start is going to bring. As I said, Tristan Iglesias only managing, it seems, 7th place in qualifying in GT3. So he's going to have a lot of work on his hands if he wants to try and get up there and take the title from Dakota Fripp. Lap 1 is going to be crucial.
Yeah, exactly. And then the other talking point, I guess, for GT is the different models and the different manufacturers and the balance of performance that's been put on them. Dakota Fripp, of course, in the Audi. Spencer Kostovich, Tristan Iglesias for Frozen Speed Full Send in the Lamborghini. So two very similar performing cars. What's a good track for the Audi is a good track for the Lamborghini, vice versa. And so when one of them's strong, the other's strong. When one of them's weak, the other one is weak. There's 10 kilograms of ballast, though, on each of those cars, Audi and Lamborghini. 8 kilograms on the fire-breathing McLaren, and nothing on anyone else. So is this going to be maybe a round for the BMWs in racing conditions? Johan Boysen has qualified 3rd with his BMW M4 GT3.
Indeed he has, and if we know the fuel situation, Johan Boysen always good at keeping the fuel levels nice and even over the course of a lap, so look out for him when the pit stops come round. A very quick break before we go to racing with a word from our series sponsor, Omologato. You're watching the Geodesic Omologato Championship. It's gridding time. The drivers are all there on the start-finish straight at Sebring, getting ready to go for 90 minutes of racing. Let's talk strategy then. This track has an awful lot of on-throttle running, but I think, David, we can expect the same kind of strategy that we've seen at previous rounds. At least 2 stops for the prototypes, maybe 2 stops for the GT class.
Yeah, so obviously the prototypes normally go about 40-ish minutes on a full fuel tank. They get to use that full 75-litre tank today. If we go green the whole way, never a certainty, but probably likely at Sebring. It's not the Long Beach Street Circuit. Bumpy as both of them can be, I guess. So yeah, probably looking at a 2-stop for prototypes. In GT, those kind of cars normally go about an hour, and now they have 60% of their fuel tank. So a bit of a restriction there for sure. Should probably be seeing 2 stops out of them. But again, that's always a question mark, and someone will always try to befuddle us.
Indeed, we can usually expect that to be Johan Boysen. As the cars pull away, here is the starting grid. Six car, prototype field. Marcus Deck and Graham Sanders leading them away, with Hayden Gober and Jason Gotter in third and fourth. Andrew Berry starting fifth, and Tyson Myers going to take that sixth and final spot, which you'll see at the very end here of the grid. Dakota Fripp, of course, on pole in the GT class, with Spencer Kostovich in second, third, Johan Boysen, fourth, John Botifer, Zach Plummer starting in fifth place, with Corey McLemore and Tristan Iglesias taking sixth and seventh. As we've said, it's going to be difficult there for Iglesias to bring himself up to the front. Eighth is Bo Rigger, ninth, Anthony Rossamano, and Aaron Ackles rounds out the top 10 for Quasar.
Yeah, indeed. Orson Morales, Nick McLaughlin, David Browning, Jordan Fisher, the remainder of the GT grid. What you see there with Tyson Meyer at the back is because he, in prototype, had no qualifying time. I think he had some other commitments. He's arrived a bit late, and qualifying doesn't immediately follow through into the race in this championship. So he is shown as at the very back, but in reality, he's gridded up in sixth place with all of the other prototype cars. And there he is, just on the right-hand side of our six prototypes. So not a huge penalty, really, for not qualifying. He's at the back of his class, but it's not a huge class. He's right there with everyone.
Yes, indeed, but I think consistency might be an issue. He hasn't gotten practice in these conditions at the moment. Dakota Fripp starting alongside Spencer Kostovich in the GT class, of course, leaving a nice gap to the prototypes, and there is no start zone for this round of the championship. So the prototypes will be going on the iRacing green flag. Remains to be seen what the GT class is going to do, whether or not they'll start racing through the final turn. Graham Sanders getting a little bit more heat into his tyres at the final hurdle on this long formation lap here at Sebring. This track is 5.95 kilometers long, so you have an awful lot of space with which to warm up your tyres behind the safety car, and a nice long straight to get yourself psyched up for putting the power down through Sunset Bend. We're about to get a start here. The Geodesic Omologato Championship will come to a close in 90 minutes' time. Who will it be in the prototype class, Deck or Sanders? Let's see how things go. In comes the pace car. Wait for the iRacing green flag. And we are away. Our six prototypes, a lovely even start between all of them. The two rows making their way towards turn one. And Marcus Deck is going to slot in ahead as they make their way through turn one. Sanders is challenging him around the outside and moves ahead of Deck coming into turn 2 and 3. Deck challenges him. Goodness me. This is a very tight start between our two prototype runners. And this is going to be difficult here. There's been a crash at the back. Both of the Action Sim Sport cars spun out there, Berry and Gober, as we've got a start in our GT class. Dakota Fripp leading the way from Spencer Kostovich, and Johan Boysen trying to defend from John Botifer.
And this is one of the reasons why the GT class leaves a bit of a gap, because it lets the prototype cars on the first lap gather themselves up. That was Tyson Meyer going for a little bit of an adventure. So the spun prototypes didn't get in the way of our GT cars much, if any at all, which is good news for them to get racing, get side by side, and get their competition underway quite cleanly here. Fripp and Kostovich getting away, but this is Botifer and Boysen side by side for third. The Lamborghini looks like it's come on strong early, but is the lighter BMW going to be better on the tyres in the long run? Hard to know, because they are battling hard on their cold tyres still.
Absolutely, Botifer taking a lot of curb there through turn 11, but moves on ahead of Johan Boysen and into third place. So it is now Audi, Lamborghini, your top three. That's a bad exit from Tower, though, for John Botifer, and that allows Boysen to draw alongside through the left-handers, coming up to Gendebien and Le Mans. Botifer with the wider arc through the corner, though, just staying ahead where it matters. fantastic racing here in the GT class, and this is slowing up everyone else, and it's leaving a bit of a a bit of a
It's
chance
literally
here
the
for Zach
entire
Plummer.
rest of the field behind these guys. That is all bar 2 of your GT runners at the end of one lap here. The Ferrari, one of the manufacturers, I didn't mention.
Oh, Boyson goes spearing off. It looks like he's going to keep it out of the wall, but Zach Plummer, I think, might have a penalty coming his way. Tried to go for the move at Sunset Bend and making contact with the BMW. So I think Plummer is going to be a bit sheepish after that one, but he is up into 4th place.
It's always difficult to gauge as well for the drivers, for us as viewers, what's going on in Sunset Bend there, because in almost any car you approach with a lot of speed. Most of your braking is done on the way through the corner. What happens here, it's side by side. Plummer definitely gets in a little bit hot though, doesn't he? Hard to tell from that particular angle.
Well, he had a slight little bit of overlap there versus Boyson. I think Boyson thought the corner was his. Yeah, he turned in there, but I think I'd put that on Zach Plummer personally. Maybe could have afforded to back out of it there.
That's what I'm talking about though. It doesn't have like a straight line braking zone on the way in. You kind of, you're really only just touching the brakes as you start turning into the corner, bleeding off some of the speed through the turn in of the corner. So in that way, it's, you know, hard to tell who can grab the corner if the car on the outside squeezed down a little bit. The car on the inside came in too hot and was going to push wide and make contact later on in the corner anyway, even if more space had been given.
Yeah, exactly. It's very tough in a GT car at that point of the circuit, but nice battle going on here. We just saw Jordan Fisher go for a bit of an adventure on the exit of Tower, trying to make his way past Aaron Ackles, and it looks like Ackles just dipping his left side wheels into the grass as there's a spin behind. That's Nick McLaughlin. He's unfortunately gotten a bit crossed up on the exit of Le Mans, and all the way to the back of the GT field as Fisher now past Ackles and moves well and truly ahead, coming through Sunset Bend. Here is the onboard from Tristan Iglesias, who has not had a good start. He's moved down into 10th place after starting from 7th, so he can feel the championship slipping out of his grasp.
Track looking very orange through turn 1, where you've got to sight that cone in the fence for your apex. Otherwise it all looks the same. It's just concrete and catch fencing. So that's a tough corner, not because you know, it's the bumpiest or, you know, the tightest or the fastest or anything, but just because it's one that's most easy to lose yourself.
Indeed. Zach Plummer chasing down John Botifer, but he now has a penalty hanging over his head. He has been black flagged for the incident with Johan Boyson, so he's going to go for a drive-through penalty sometime in the next couple of laps. So that's going to really set his race on the back foot. It's a shame because you can see that Plummer really has the pace to challenge for the podium here.
Well, he was challenging for the podium, that's for sure, and that's what's landed him in a little bit of hot water. Long race still to go, as you can see in the top left. Best part of 6 minutes into what you would still consider a bit of an endurance race, endurance format. And Marcus Deck has just set the fastest lap of the race on that lap just gone. Here he is, right in behind Graham Sanders, maybe starting to ramp up the pressure a little bit, using the slipstream as well for sure.
Indeed he is. And Graham Sanders is doing a sterling job of keeping it in the lead there. But, oh, there we go, Plummer up the inside of John Botifer into Sunset Bend. That is a clean pass into that turn, but you're going to see Plummer bring it into the pit lane here to serve his drive-through penalty. Pit entry here at Sebring comes up very quickly. You've got to use those cones on the left-hand side as your braking point, but he's going to file back to the back of the field. Deck just dipping a wheel off into the gravel coming out of Tower Turn as he chases down Graham Sanders. And I tell you what, Graham's Twitch is going to be absolutely on fire at the moment. seeing him leading here and engaged in a fantastic battle with the RLR number 30. And here is where the slipstream comes into play again. The sun setting in the west here in Florida. Have a look at how much he gains at the very end of the straight, actually going for a very wide entry into Sunset Bend, trying his best to straighten out the exit. Doesn't seem to have gained him much that time around, but we'll see how it works out for him over the course of this next lap. Coming into turn 1, they both nail the apex and make a nice clean exit.
And as close as they were a lap ago, so near identical lap times between the two of them. I had a look. Great race that Graham Sanders is having, great position he's in, but unfortunately, in the Twitch viewers, Tyson Meyer back and forth is still outscoring him. But championship-wise, Graham Sanders is looking in a better position.
Indeed he is. He's pretty much guaranteed second place in the championship at this stage. Here's Corey McLemore, the leader of the Gentleman's Championship for least incidents. And currently, he is challenging Anthony Rossimano for 5th place. Rossimano has had some really good races this season. Corey McLemore hasn't always been on the outright pace, but you can see that he is treating that BMW very well and getting a nice exit out of Sunset Bend. The car barely complained at all, and we see the battling here further towards the back. Johan Boyson looking to recover from his spin thanks to Zach Plummer and Tristan Iglesias leading up a 3-car fight here. Iglesias has gotten crossed up on the entry into turn 1. That's going to allow Orson Meireles a potential run up the inside, but defensive from the number 103. He will want to minimize those kinds of mistakes, but that is what the bumps at Sebring can do. David Browning is having a lovely time here with a front row seat to this battle.
Yeah, sure is. One of the things that the onboard reminded me is how much I hate the gear ratios in this BMW. 6th gear, don't even think about it here at Sebring. It's all 1st through to 5th for you. They're maybe a little too tall. Not that that seems to matter too much, because the BMW has looked quite competitive at times across the whole season.
Indeed it has. But Iglesias putting the power down nicely out of Collier curve. Of course, that turn 10 is named for Sam Collier, who is another one of the drivers who organised the first couple of races at Sebring in the middle of the 20th century. Collier, unfortunately, was killed in an accident at Watkins Glen, and the track continuing in his honour. But have a look at the battle for 3rd between John Botifer and Bo Rigger, the two Geodesic Racing teammates. And Bo Rigger is another one of those drivers that we've seen really challenging for those podium positions, and really seems to come on strong in that Ferrari once the race gets a few laps in.
Do we got to wheel out the Lamborghini versus Ferrari facts again? That Italian rivalry. But what we are seeing is the Ferrari, no ballast on it, coming on strong in the race here. Bo Rigger is up 4 positions so far. And the way you see him sort of driving very smoothly within himself, but putting the pressure on John Botifer, you wouldn't say that 3rd place is out of the question soon for Bo Rigger, the way he's going in the Ferrari.
Yeah, would agree. He's really come on strong in the second half of the lap, as it's a challenge for the lead in prototype for Marcus Deck. Gets up the inside of Graham Sanders, but Sanders with the wider line through turn 5 gets the power down just a little bit smoother and keeps it from Marcus Deck. They're starting to encounter traffic. They just went past Nick McLaughlin and now making their way past Zach Plummer. They both file through at the hairpin, or do they? Contact between Deck and Plummer on the turn out. And Plummer not entirely happy with that one. But that's one of the things you've got to consider here at Sebring. On the exit from turns like the hairpin, it's very easy for a prototype to get into the side of a GT.
Yeah, it's deceptive on the exit there, the way it sort of snakes after the hairpin. It restricts the amount of space you have on the outside, and got away with it there. No real problems. But Marcus Deck didn't quite judge how much space the GT was still going to need on the exit there. And you can see Zach Plummer was slightly less than pleased with it. Oh, there's a slide getting into the traction control, putting the power down for Graham Sanders. Last lap around was basically personal bests for both of these guys. The track is cooling off just a little bit, down to 26 Celsius. Sure, they're starting to catch GT traffic now, but as they're burning through the fuel, the track's cooling off a little bit. These prototypes are really starting to hit their stride. The lap times are getting quicker. Probably not this lap. Look at all that traffic for these guys, though.
Yeah, traffic in the middle of turn 1. This is going to be awkward for these guys. They both get through, though. Slightly tighter exit out of the first turn, and they are both by Orson Meireles by the time they get to turn 3. Tristan Iglesias has managed to gap Meireles and is now on the back of Aaron Ackles, just ahead of these guys in the 2 Lamborghinis. And Sanders moving to the outside of Big Bend to take it there on Iglesias. Up the inside of the hairpin. Deck is going to get slightly held up here. This is going to give a bit of a free kick to Graham Sanders. The gap extends between our prototype leaders, but Deck there doing the right thing and staying behind through the hairpin. Have a look at this, another 2-car battle. Let's see if Sanders gets by both of these guys by the time they get to Collier. Oh, well, had to go a bit wide there, did Anthony Rossimano. But here, Marcus Deck just held up slightly even more. Gets ahead, though, coming on the braking zone for Tower, and that's given a bit of an advantage to Jordan Fisher. Slightly compromised exit for Anthony Rossimano, and they run side by side. There's a tiny bit of overlap, and Jordan Fisher gets on by, coming into Jean de Bien. Rossimano just lifting out of it there.
Yeah, that's some good positions gained on this one for Fisher, who's the biggest mover in the GT field at the moment, plus 8 positions, so opportunistic both ways with the traffic. The prototypes getting opportunistic, and also Jordan Fisher taking the opportunity to get past Rossimano as he got held a little wide.
Well, the prototype leaders are going to be coming up on our GT leaders pretty soon. Dakota Fripp has had a great run here in the opening 15 minutes of the race. Spencer Kostovich holding on in second, but Fripp just a little bit better on race pace. The gap now over 4 seconds between our 2 GT leaders, and prototype leaders coming up on them very quickly as Bo Rigger continuing to challenge for 3rd in GT. Just coasting through turn 5 and getting a lovely exit once again. See if he can get the move done at the hairpin. Looks like he's just not far up enough to make the move work at the moment, and the hairpin braking zone very bumpy. It's a different brake, it's a different sort of braking point for every single lap at that particular part of the circuit. The lights come on. The sun is now a bit too low in the sky for there to be no headlights, so we're going to be finishing in the dark here at Sebring.
That's what you love about the Lamborghini, though, is that people who have equipped the endurance headlights always have their headlights on. Not everyone does, though. I was just seeing that I think Bodefer and Kostovich don't, but there's definitely some other Lamborghinis out there with what amounts to an off-roading light bar fixed up to the front.
Yes, indeed. We're very familiar with those here in Australia. It seems that even people in urban areas like to run with them.
I knew you were going to go there. I understand.
Yeah, there's a point of frustration when you're driving down the highway and you've got someone behind you with their LED light bar at full blast. What are you trying to do, blind me? That's not as much of a problem here in the sim as Marcus Deck gets in the draft of Graham Sanders and goes for the move at turn 1 into the lead then for Marcus Deck, the championship leader. And Sanders trying to have another go at him coming into turn 3, but Deck just a bit too far ahead for that to work.
It's spicy already, though. Bit of a slide through the mid-corner there. A very tough left-hander there for Sanders. That's then dropped him back a little bit further from Deck. They're going to have a little bit of clear track for a while here, so maybe... Oh gosh, are we going to see Deck be able to pull away at all with no obstructions, with no traffic?
That is the question, and I wouldn't put it past Deck to get it done, because when it comes to outright pace, he is often the man to beat in the prototype class. So we'll see how that battle works out. But the battle for third in GT, oh, hello, battle a bit further back. We see Tristan Iglesias around the outside of Aaron Ackles at the hairpin. That's another position for him. He's gained a bit since we last saw him. He was in 10th, now in 8th, on the verge of getting back into his qualifying position. The next target for him is Anthony Rossimano, just up there ahead. They've got one of the Action Sim Sport prototypes right on the back. Andrew Berry just staying behind through tower turn, not electing to go for any banzai overtaking moves, but that's a bit awkward there. Getting up the inside of Iglesias as the line swaps from left to right. That's one of the places at this circuit that, you know, if you're up behind a GT, you're never quite sure what they're going to do.
Yeah, I mean, it was a bit awkward, but in the end, I think he just needed to predict that Iglesias was just going to follow the line as if he wasn't there, and then it was on the prototype. There's a slightly resurgent Johan Boyson.
Indeed, making his way past Orson Morales into Sunset Bend. And that's a simple move done and dusted. So we'll see if Boyson here, after getting set back on lap 1, is going to try and extend his stint as much as possible, as Ackles has gone for another move on Tristan Iglesias, but ultimately hasn't worked out for him. Had to pull out through the turn. Iglesias just carrying a little bit more momentum there.
So 21.6 seconds is how much a drive-through penalty costs you, as you can tell. And then what matters more is the positions it costs you, and that's what the second part of the graphic showed, from 5th to 13th.
Indeed, but Zach Plummer's wasting no time trying to get back on the pace. He was 1.3 seconds faster than David Browning on the last lap, the next car up ahead of him, so Zach Plummer should be mixing it with his competitors again very soon. Bo Rigger's fallen back slightly from John Botifer for third, but that battle I think is going to continue for quite some time. They do have their pit stop coming up pretty soon. Sometime in the next 20 minutes, we're going to be seeing the majority of our field, prototype and GT, potentially coming in.
Marcus Deck, fastest lap of the race. He is absolutely motoring right now, and he has almost 2 seconds to Graham Sanders. Somehow I think there might have been just a little mistake from Sanders. Deck has bolted, broken the draft, and now seems to have the pace, seems to have the answers.
Yeah, certainly. He's really consolidating that lead at the moment, keeping it nice and smooth over the bumps at Sebring.
I love this section of track here, by the way, through Collier and into Tower, because there's all these other parts of the lap where you feel so exposed on, you know, old runways down the Ullman Straight, for example. But then you come through that section there, and there's actually some trees and other stuff overlooking the track. It's not the Nürburgring, it's not quite racing through the forest there, but from all of these other parts of the track that are so open, so flat, and just boundless plains, it gets a little cozy through that section as it twists and bends through some buildings and some trees and some other little spectator areas there.
Yes, indeed. A fun fact about the run up to Tower, that right-hand sweep as you come into the braking zone for the right angle right-hander is actually the old turn 4 of Sebring, the classic layout used a bit more of the runways, and tower turn named for the control tower. It used to be a left-hander going onto the infield, and the circuit rejoins the old circuit right here. It used to be a nice sweeping run from tower through to Big Bend, but as the track's been reconfigured so much over the years, they've ended up reusing some of those old bits of tarmac, some of them being run in the opposite direction.
I think there's segments of Long Beach that are now run in the opposite direction to how they used to be done.
Yeah, at least a couple of them.
What is it? Racingcircuits.info, I think, has all of the historic maps going back, what the layout was, in different years, etc. I'm sure that's something you've, well, I know your hobbies and your interests. I'm sure that's something you've taken a look at, but for the people who haven't, it is kind of interesting. All of these circuits are there that you can go and look, not just at what the track map is today, but what it was in 1998 and what the changes look like, and all interesting stuff. For a certain type of person, interesting.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, racingcircuits.info is probably my favorite website. It's it's such a treasure trove of information. There's some fantastic write-ups on the history of the world's racing circuits as well. Obviously not a sponsor here at SimSpeed TV, but I'd say check them out if you want to broaden your knowledge about racing circuits. It'll probably put some things in perspective for you as you're going around in the sim. Botifer certainly trying his best to drop his teammate Bo Rigger, but Bo is still keeping himself within a second of Botifer, which should certainly work out for him when the pit stop phase comes round. Have a look here at Anthony Rossimano. He's ended up losing the position ultimately to Tristan Iglesias. Iglesias now moving up another position in his recovery from a poor qualifying and first lap.
I'm done with it after this, but I just remembered there's all the sections of Interlagos that the current layout runs backwards to how they used to be done. Like Reta Aposta from turn 3 down towards turn 4 and 5 and all that stuff.
Yes, indeed. That Interlagos is certainly a track that has undergone quite a few changes over the years. In some places, it's barely recognisable from when it started. A question from our director, Phillip Island, here in Australia. Phillip Island was originally designed to be run in the opposite direction of what it was, but thanks to the, I think, very prescient decisions of the Phillip Island Auto Racing Club, they decided to run it anti-clockwise instead of clockwise for its first races. So there's a huge amount of history behind just about every one of the world's racetracks. Definitely check out sites like racingcircuits.info if you want to broaden that knowledge of yours.
I get all of my facts and knowledge from super serious track guides.
Ah, yes. The only true facts in all of circuit racing.
Everything else is just pretenders.
That's it. I really need to make more of those. I've got a few in the pipeline. But it's a question of finding the time and the motivation to get them done. I'm a very busy boy at the moment as we see Nick McLaughlin jumping into the pit lane. And that is going to be our first scheduled stop of the GT class as we come up on an hour and 4 minutes to go. Well,
quite long.
Maybe.
Car's not up on the jacks yet, is it? I think I smell some repairs going on. Was the front right a bit out of sorts for Nick McLaughlin, or am I imagining things?
No, looks like the car's in all right shape. I'm not too sure what's going on there. It looks
He's
like
going now.
Yeah, it looks like a fuel stop for Nick McLaughlin. He spent 52 seconds at a standstill. So maybe some damage repair there as well. Maybe even serving a penalty if he sped on the way into pit lane. Further up, though, we see Jordan Fisher right on the back of Bo Rigger now, Bo has fallen back even further from John Botifer. So now under some massive threat from the Mercedes. Very aggressive entry for Nick McLaughlin into turn 1. Brief little look at Bo Rigger coming into turn 3, and Rigger running wide through the 3rd turn. Jordan Fisher starting to smell blood here. Some slight oversteer from the Ferrari on the exit of turn 5, so that is translated into a really good run here for the Mercedes of Fisher. And it's going to be an inside move up at the hairpin. And Rigger sees him coming. Gives him a hip check. Bump in the rear coming into the hairpin. Had to sacrifice a bit of speed, did Jordan Fisher, thanks to the tighter line, but looks like no real harm done.
He kind of, I think, locked the rears a little bit on the way in there as well. Kind of slid past the apex, parked it. Nothing Bo Rigger could do. Not really a bad move or anything from Fisher, but I also don't think it was 100% how he planned it. What we're seeing is, I mean, the Mercedes starting to look pretty good as well. Jordan Fisher moving up bulk positions now, plus 10 spots. And the torque and the pull of that motor has always been the strength of the AMG. Unlike the road-going car with the twin-turbo 4-litre V8, they carried over the 6.2-litre V8 from the previous generation GT3 that was in the SLS. And so, you know, when it comes to putting the power down off the corners, the straight line, it just pulls, and then you upshift, and then it keeps pulling in the next gear and in the next gear. It didn't look maybe quite as good on turn-in or on the brakes as some of the other GT3s can be, but if every model has its little quirks and the one area where it has its little advantage and is weaker everywhere else, the straight line speed and the sort of pull off the corners has always been strong for that Mercedes.
It has indeed. Tristan Iglesias coming in for his first scheduled stop of the night with just over an hour to go. We'll see if he has to come in again for a splash towards the end, but looks like just fuel there for Iglesias. And I would say that the prototypes certainly don't need to take tyres, but with some recent changes to tyre wear in the GT class, who knows, on the second pit stop, he might have to go up onto the jacks. But Iglesias has just taken fuel there, only a 21.3 second stop for him. So I think that shows that Nick McLaughlin's stop was definitely to take some damage as well.
Yeah, I went and had a peek, and I couldn't actually work out where he'd put the damage on that front right, or even if he'd just been carrying it for a long time there. Surely
Fisher
wasn't helping. Bo Rigger has gone from being one of the drivers moving forward to now he went and lost 4th place to, well, first of all, he stopped pressuring John Botifer, and then he's lost the spot to Jordan Fisher. Now you can see Corey McLemore starting to position behind.
Yeah, it looks like Bo has given it everything he's got in the early part of the stint, and now the car is starting to struggle with the lighter fuel load, maybe some extra wear on the tyres. So Corey just behind him, really looking at getting by him very shortly. And they've also got Tyson Meyer coming up on them. Meyer has made his way up into 3rd in the prototype class, thanks to the mishap with Hayden Gober and Andrew Berry on lap 1, and has also made his way past Jason Gotter as well, getting up to them in the twisties at the start of the lap. And it looks like this is going to be a nice easy move for Tyson Meyer on, oh no, Zach Plummer going right into the wall, and that looks to be at the exit of turn 1. Get the Omologato replay on that one. This looks like something that Plummer did all on his own, or was it? As a prototype coming through, yeah, he didn't do it on his own. Goodness me, that was Jason Gotter going through in the prototype. Bit of a misjudgment there. Looks like Gober actually had to have a couple of goes at it. Either he got crossed up on the entry, or saw Gotter coming through and briefly thought about going wide. But I think either way, that move was not on.
Yeah, I mean, that is on our prototype driver there. You can see what's kind of caused it is Plummer has had a big wiggle, slowed up a little bit in the middle of the corner, more than Hayden Gober was expecting. But it's still, on Hayden Gober to not run into the back of someone. So you can see what brought the stars into line on that one is the wiggle, the slide, and the checkup on the apex from Plummer.
Indeed. Well, the battle between Corey McLemore and Bo Rigger is decided for now as Rigger goes into the pit lane. He's going to be joined by Anthony Rossamano. And we see more cars coming in just behind. It looks like Aaron Ackles in another Lamborghini going for his first scheduled pit stop as well. We're going to get a proper comparison here as the number 81 of Andrew Berry brings it in the prototype. The first of our prototype runners to jump into the pit lane. And Jason Gotter has received a drive-through penalty for that incident, with Zach Plummer going wide in the hairpin as the penalty is announced. So we're going to be seeing that number 55 making a tour through the pit lane.
He was just trying to take the line at the old hairpin.
And it looks like Tristan Iglesias has moved ahead of Bo Rigger in the pit stops. Iglesias then back up to 10th place. Bo Rigger down to 11th. We've still got the majority of our GT field yet to bring it into the lane as Marcus Deck continues on his way. Graham Sanders has dropped quite a bit over the last set of laps. It's now over 10 seconds, the gap between our two prototype leaders. And there we go, our GT leaders making their way in. Dakota Fripp and Spencer Kostovich both bringing it in. Let's see if Kostovich has any tricks up his sleeve.
Yeah, Fripp had just started gapping him a couple of seconds, and Kostovich didn't appear to have much to respond with it. Here comes Bodefer, Fisher, Boyson.
Looks like Orson Myrales bringing it in as well, just behind. And pit lane is an absolute hive of activity. David Browning, the next car to join them. So
yeah, that's everyone from GT.
Indeed.
Except Macklemore.
Yes, moves up into the lead and trying to extend this stint as much as he can. And Zach Plummer bringing it in. Of course, he's got a bit of damage from his appointment with the wall. Hayden Gober, sorry, on the back of Jason Gotter, and Gotter still has to bring it into the pits. He has to do it within the next couple of laps, otherwise he's going to get another penalty from race control. But our GT runners then exiting the pit lane. It looks like the quickest stop so far was that 21.3 second stop from Tristan Iglesias as Marcus Deck brings it in. Let's see if Graham Sanders stays out. He does indeed, and inherits the prototype lead. Tyson Meyer also coming in the Geodesic number 25.
Yep. What are these two going to do? Gotter and Gober coming through Sunset Bend, the final corner. Can't always tell what they're doing until kind of past the apex and you see who tracks out, who doesn't. Both of them going for another. I wonder if there's any aero damage or anything going on for Gotter at this point. I don't see any damage on the nose, but I wouldn't be surprised if there was some that was costing him a little bit at the moment. I mean, he went off-roading as well on the previous lap, I think.
Yeah, might be a possibility of some floor damage, and that's the one thing that you want to try and leave alone on the prototypes, because they produce the majority of their downforce through the floor of the car. And he's going to let Hayden Gober go, as that is an overshot pit lane stall there for Corey McLemore. He'll have lost a bit of time from that. So Dakota Fripp re-inherits the lead of GT. And there we go, Gober ahead of Gotter. Second at the moment, but of course he has yet to come in for his stop. And Gotter's got to be careful here, because he obviously needs to come in to serve his drive-through penalty, but he won't be allowed to take any service while he's there. So he'll have to get the drive-through penalty done now and then come in for his stop. Otherwise, he risks running out of fuel out on track.
Oh, the other thing is, if you take pit service while you've got a black flag, then it holds you an extra 40 seconds in your pit bay instead of the 20 seconds you'd lose if you did a drive-through and then the next time came around and took your fuel service. So yeah, if he's tight on fuel here and he takes service, he's handing himself an extra penalty on top. That would be a mistake. A mistake to make that would cost him an extra 20 seconds.
Either way, he is in the pit lane there with Hayden Gober, as we just saw Graham Sanders taking his service as well. And it looks like Gotter is taking service here, so he's going to be held for quite some time with that black flag hanging over his head. Marcus Deck re-inherits the lead of Prototype. And Sanders just making his way out of turn one now, so the gap between them has extended by an extra couple of seconds. It's now 12.6 between our two prototype leaders.
Yeah, Marcus Deck obviously just getting on with the job right now. Just managed to find an extra gear that Sanders hasn't since the first 10 minutes of the race or so. Everyone in GT has made their pit stops. Fripp leads from Kostovic. Iglesias up into third. That's interesting to see. His slightly early stop. That's also interesting to see on board with Bo Rigger as he rows the grass but keeps it out of the wall.
Yeah, it's a tough one there at the exit of Sunset Bend. Is that there is a little strip of grass there that gives you a bit of reprieve before the wall, but you really don't want to be getting out there. That's a sign that you've gotten on the throttle a little bit too early and induced some understeer in the car. But then I like to say to my teammates that there is no such thing as a correct line through the first and last turns here at Sebring. You know, the bumps come into play so much, and the track is so wide that there's any number of lines that are possible through those first and last turns. Not quite the case for this section of the circuit, though.
Reese, you want to hear some good news?
Yeah?
I scheduled some fireworks for after the race.
Oh, excellent. We're going to be seeing some pyrotechnic display. I'm looking forward to that.
Of course, that's got to wait a little bit because it's not dark enough yet. Need the sun to set further. That's the good thing about the timing of this race, is we started with some beautiful orange hues, and then by the time we finish the race, it'll be properly dark, and I can hit the big red button.
Looking forward to it. I hope that that the choreography of it is up to scratch. It's always nice to see fireworks at Sebring. Well, Marcus Deck, clear air ahead of him for now. And the next car up the road is Zach Plummer, who's just making his way into Tower now. You'll probably see him from the perspective as we see Jason Gotter serving his drive-through penalty there. So, looks like he ultimately wasn't held for that extra 40 seconds. Oh, actually, he was. We just heard from race control. He decided to take service, so got the good old park for a bit from iRacing. So that's much extra time there for Jason Goddard that he probably wouldn't have wanted. He's ended up suffering much more from that penalty.
Just, I mean, he was with Hayden Gober when they came into the pit lane, the other lap. Now he's 25 seconds behind Gober now, having done the drive-through. So I think actually the drive-through has been separate. I wonder if we're going to see Jason Goddard again. Tyson Meyer might catch Graham Sanders by the end of this one, the way it's going. Tyson Meyer, 47.1, fastest car on the track last lap, 47.3 this time, still true. Goodness me, he's closer to Sanders in second than Sanders is to Deck in the lead.
Yeah, certainly is. Tyson Meyer has really brought his A game to this race and going very fast at the moment. And he's always very hard balls to the wall driver, but it's working out for him nicely here at Sebring. It looks like Jason Goddard has elected to retire from the race. Those penalties, obviously a bit too much for his campaign. So hanging up the helmet, and that's the last we're going to be seeing of Jason Goddard in this season.
For shame, I think. Kind of simplifies a lot of the calculations in the Prototype Championship. What's still a little more complicated is GT, and I was trying to raise the point. Iglesias sort of mired in a lot of the traffic in the middle of the GT field, pitted 2 laps before everyone else, and okay, slightly shorter pit stop, probably a little underfueled compared to some other people, but it has rocketed him up into third.
Indeed, and if Dakota Fripp has a problem that puts him outside of the top 3, then that might put Iglesias in the box seat to win the championship. We've still got a while to go here. There's the battle between Aaron Ackles and Orson Miralles is interrupted slightly by Marcus Deck. And that's a nice exit again for the number 30 prototype. So that battle is going to continue. We're now approaching the halfway point of the race. Tyson Meyer continuing to gain here on Graham Sanders. Look at the gain that he had on lap 24. There must have been traffic for Graham Sanders at that point. 0.8 of a second extra for Tyson Meyer. So it is still on for second place in prototype. But for now, we're at the halfway point of the race. It is time for another word from our series sponsor, Omologato. You are watching the Geodesic Omologato Championship, the final round from Sebring. We have both titles still yet to be decided.
There's a story on this island. History lives here. If you listen closely, you can still hear the echo of a Dino, smell the petrol of a Carrera, feel the grace of an LP. In those days, lives were lost and fortunes were won in the blink of an eye. It's no longer that simple in today's world. But on an island, it's almost as if time stands still. Honoring the past by racing into the future. Motorsport, it's in our DNA.
You're watching the Geodesic Omologato Championship, dusk at Sebring. The lights are on. We still have a race to be run here. 43 minutes to go. with Marcus Deck holding the prototype lead by 12 seconds from Graham Sanders. Dakota Fripp holding on by 6 seconds from Spencer Kostovich, with Tristan Iglesias taking a shorter initial pit stop and vaulting himself up to third in GT. I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes alongside me if you're just joining us. And well, David, it's been an interesting first half of the race. We've still got half to go. What kind of dramas are we going to be seeing? We've still got an extra pit stop guaranteed for our prototype runners.
And for GTs as well, you remember everyone was pitting after almost sort of 30 to 35 minutes, not 45. So I'm going to confidently hang my hat on that another pit stop left for everyone in this one. Lights on the cars, but also you notice a lot more lights on in the camping areas, the hotel. Looking good. A lot of campers. A lot of, I hope they're happy campers. Morales here is ranging up to the back of Aaron Ackles in the Lamborghini, and such different lines through Sunset. You saw Morales close a lot on the entry, where it seems Ackles slowed a little more, but then Ackles is then able to point the car off the corner a little better, and it's about the same gap now. The concertina effect was very, very marked through Sunset Bend.
Yeah, it absolutely was. Ackles, I think, just slowing it up a little bit more to gain a bit more on the exit. But you see Morales gaining on him through turns 3, 4, and 5. Very tight battle between these two. And it seems that, you know, no matter where you are in the GT field, you will have someone to battle with if you play your cards right. That BMW looking very good throughout these twistier sections of the lap. Of course, the Lamborghini carrying an extra 10 kilograms of ballast, thanks to balancing of performance by race control.
And some would say not enough, because still your top 4 cars in GT are Audis and Lamborghinis.
A very good point indeed. Doesn't seem to have hobbled the likes of Vendaval Sim Racing's Dakota Fripp and Frozen Speed Full Sends Racing Spencer Kostovich and Tristan Iglesias. Here is Dakota Fripp once again. And you see that second place blip there on his lowest position ticker, and that was due to the pit stop. He ended up pitting before Corey McLemore did. McLemore, the longest stint of anyone in GT so far, and McLemore is chasing down Bo Rigger at the moment. Quite the interesting battle here, and Bo Rigger, he was fast at the start of the race, but fell off the pace a bit before the pit stops came round. McLemore seems to be gaining on him bit by bit.
Can often be useful to follow someone else in the dark. They light up the track a little bit further ahead of you, give you a little bit more reference points than if you're just driving all by yourself. I mean, you find that on the racetrack, in the sim. You also find it to be true out on the roads as well, sometimes, especially if it's foggy.
Yes, indeed. I think that it's a bit more the case for you guys that live over east in Australia. Here in Perth, we do get fog occasionally in the winter out in the bushy areas. But for the most part, nice and clear here with a Mediterranean climate. Fog is something that is a bit of an event, I'd say, for me anyway.
No, same. If anytime, every second year when there's a foggy morning, they'll always, it's news when there's fog.
Make sure to run your fog lights. Well, That's a good exit for Corey McLemore in the draft of Bo Rigger now down the Ullman Straight, but hasn't been able to get up alongside him before Sunset Bend. He's going to have to get in the draft again down the front straight here. Bit of a tighter line out of Sunset. Bo Rigger using a bit more of the exit. It looks like McLemore is going to have to stay behind again. Coming into turn 1. The next car up is Jordan Fisher, and he's a few seconds ahead of these guys. So maybe McLemore just saving a little bit of fuel behind Bo Rigger. Try to shorten his second pit stop somewhat. But then I am just spitballing, as I usually am when I talk about strategy.
We can tell a good yarn, sound very, very clever, and then watch them do the complete opposite sometimes.
Yes.
So that's the fun of it, you know. We can have a good knowledge of the strategy and the way the cars wear their tires, and you know, from up here, say what we think they should do or what we would do in their situation. But it is live sport, live competition. We can analyze, but we can't completely perfectly predict.
Yes, indeed. We are not fortune tellers. We do not have crystal balls, as that is Andrew Berry going for a bit of an off-track excursion at the hairpin. Once again, almost electing to take the old layout. Is the Omologato replay. Have a look at what happened to him. And I think this might be a lock-up coming into the braking zone. Yep, just locking the rears and going for a big old spin at the hairpin, finding himself in the grass. Manages to keep it going, though, with the automatic clutch on these prototypes. And that's one of the pitfalls of the hairpin. On the surface change, there's quite a few bumps on the entry into the corner, so you've got to be very careful with how you apply the brakes.
I would say, I don't think there's anyone in a strategy position where it makes sense, but any prototype car that pitted now would be able to make it to the end. So the window is kind of open on that one.
It is indeed, so see if any of the prototype runners come in the next couple of laps. And the prototype of Hayden Gober making his way past Rigger and McLemore has brought Corey back into play slightly. It's also brought Johan Boyson into the picture as well, just behind.
Yeah, here comes Boyson. Still kind of trying to recover from right at the start of the race.
Yes, if you missed the start, Johan Boyson got spun by Zach Plummer coming into Sunset Bend on the first lap. So he's been on a recovery drive ever since then. He's still 4 positions down from where he started, but he has really been gaining on these two and getting the pace up. Boyson, the top qualifying BMW, qualifying in 3rd. So he certainly has the pace to back himself up. He's right on the bumper of McLemore now, his teammate at Team Tortuga. Let's see what he can do down at the Ullman Straight. Beautiful scenes here at Sebring as the sun goes down.
Or is he just giving it up? He's letting both Tortuga BMWs through.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm gonna go back and have a look at that. Let's see if he. It doesn't look like he went outside the bounds of the track. So maybe he is just letting them go.
Well, that's free real estate for Corey McLemore and Johan Boyson, and I think Boyson probably won't be held up too long behind McLemore. So that's his charge continuing.
Johan Boyson, we know, is one of the lightest on fuel in the GT class. So he'll probably be extending this stint quite a bit, coming in for a splash towards the end. So there might be a few positions in it yet for the South African.
Club Texas though, which is interesting. He's looking close to his teammate. Not today.
Got a prototype in the midst of all of that as well. Checking back in with Graham Sanders. He's continued to lose time compared to Marcus Deck there. Seems like the title is falling out of his grasp unless there's a crash for Marcus Deck. Touch wood. Might not be the title for Graham Sanders. Boyson just falling back slightly from Corey McLemore. But I'm sure he'll be right back on his teammate in due course. Maybe just using the opportunity to do a little bit of lift and coast, save a little bit more fuel.
And I guess the GT fuel window is also open. Nick McLaughlin has, I think, taken that. Everyone else sort of staying out, going a little bit longer. But if they did pit now, they would get to the end. So I wonder, I guess we're going to see Iglesias again in not too long as well.
Iglesias still a fair way behind Spencer Kostovich as it stands. A few seconds between them. But as it stands, it's still going to be a strong result for Frozen Speed Full Send Racing. Those two Lamborghinis both in at the podium positions.
Worked out what they need is they need a slightly different white balance on all of the different headlights, because no two cars ever have exactly the same whiteness to the headlights. I changed some car headlights the other day, and the new bulbs are noticeably different actually than the outgoing ones.
Indeed, I mean, particularly at Le Mans and in the World Endurance Championship, you have the GT runners running yellow headlights compared to the white of the prototypes to make it easier to differentiate between them in nighttime conditions. But there's still enough light around the racetrack to see the silhouettes of the cars. We can still see them just as well. And I mean, you see from the side angle of the BMW that the headlights show up as a bit yellow, but from head on, they are indeed white, as Johan Boyson continuing to pressure his teammate Corey McLemore here, with the Tortuga cars running bumper to bumper.
So the fog lights are just the same bulbs as the low beams. It's just like having a second set of low beams. It makes no sense to me. Those are some fog lights that seem to only exist for vanity purposes.
Well, any light is good light in the nighttime conditions here at Sebring. Marcus
Sorry, I'm still talking about the Toyota, not these race cars.
Ah, righto.
See you, Toyota.
Oh dear. Bo Rigger having to contend with Nick McLaughlin here. McLaughlin, of course, a lap down on the other runners in the GT class. He had a spin in the opening laps and then spent some extra time in the pits on his first stop. Still not sure whether or not that was for damage. But undoubtedly there were some issues that Nick McLaughlin had to work out. John Botifer still holding on to fourth place here, but He's going to have to keep an eye out for Jordan Fisher, who's looming in the background there. You see with the 05 position light on his Mercedes. Gained a 10th on Botifer on the last lap. Marcus Deck just making his way around Jordan Fisher as we speak. He is through. Let's compare lap times this time round. 2:01.19 for Botifer. 2:09 for Jordan Fisher. So look out for Fisher towards the end of the race, challenging for 4th.
There's a little bit of a slide that left a bit of smoke there.
Tristan Iglesias still running in 3rd, but
No, he's not.
Might have been him. Oh yeah. Hello. A mistake for Iglesias. Might have been a bit too much curb. Oh no, just losing the rear, and oh, that is a big hit into the barrier. So that's some front end damage for Tristan. Was the closest challenger for Dakota Fripp, but now it seems losing to Jordan Fisher, who has actually made his way past John Botifer, it seems. Was there a mistake? Something happened to Botifer as well. I'm not too sure. Yeah, while we were on the replay, actually, Botifer went a bit deep into the hairpin and took an excursion into the grass. So we'll get another Omologato replay of that. I think just a little bit too late for John Botifer. And that is Tristan Iglesias getting back through on John Botifer, but you see Botifer right there going a bit deep into the hairpin and off into the grass. So 2 mistakes in the space of a couple of corners. Indeed.
Now he's going to pit, and so are some others. Still waiting on the final stops for anyone in prototype, but you can see GTs lining up in the storied Sebring pit lane.
Yeah, the winners of the previous 12 hours of Sebring are up on the garages. An awful lot of history at this magnificent track.
You can read Ford, you can read Porsche. A lot of Audi for a decade or so there.
So the pit stops complete there. Botifer comes out. Only 16.8 seconds stopped in the box. Tristan Iglesias with 20.4 seconds, and that's what we expected with Iglesias pitting earlier than his competitors. Of course, that spin of his, he would have had to repair a little bit of damage on the way through as well. So I think now the GT title is Dakota Fripp's to lose.
It kind of already was, but now it's, well, an even more difficult climb for Iglesias.
And with only 24 minutes left in the race, it's unlikely that anything's going to happen to change that. The Fripp Tide making its way through turns 5 and 6 here in Big Bend. And that is how far behind Spencer Kostovich is. Fair few seconds between Fripp and Kostovich, to the tune of about 8 seconds, really, between the two of them. And I think it's par for the course for Dakota Fripp. There's shades here of his early season form. He was absolutely dominant, crushingly so, in the first few races of the season, which really put him in the box seat to take that title, as we see Anthony Rossomano making his final stop of the night. Still waiting on our prototype runners to make their way in for their final stop, but we can expect them in the next few minutes.
Yeah, probably in the next 3 or 4 laps. It seems like almost everyone in prototype went about 20 laps in their first stint, and now Marcus Deck is 17 laps into his second stint. So maybe another 3 laps or so from Deck, if the second stint goes the same way the first one did.
Fripp and everyone down to Orson Meireles still yet to come in for their second stop as well. Dakota Fripp's last pit stop on lap 18. He's now on lap 34, so we can expect him to stay out for at least 2 more laps again at this stage. Running on board with Johan Boyson, who's continuing to sit behind Corey McLemore. It was a big charge from Johan Boyson to get himself back up the field. But he seems to have hit a bit of a brick wall here, just electing to run with his teammate for a bit before they come in for their final stop. And they are the closest battle on track for position. Bo Rigger has had a very rough time of it. He's now running close to last place in GT after challenging for third very early on. Aaron Ackles, the next car to come in, from 7th place.
Rigger's made his final stop though, so he'll probably pick up a couple more as some other guys pit. But you are right. He was looking like the hot thing, battling for third place for a little while there, and the steam ran out some way somehow.
Well, Anthony Rossimano captures the position from Aaron Ackles as he comes out of the pit lane. And there is Bo Rigger. So we'll see if that ends up being a battle between Ackles and Rigger. But Aaron has shown that he can be quite on the pace as our GT leaders come in for their final pit stop. Both Fripp and Kostovich making their way in. Jordan Fisher now up to 3rd place. We could probably expect him in the next few moments as well. Let's see how the pit stop is for Fripp and Kostovich. Into the lane is going to go Jordan Fisher.
Out of the lane is going to go Dakota Fripp.
Indeed, with a 16.4 second stop and 17.2 seconds for Spencer Kostovich.
And also a bit of traffic, as you see McLemore and Boyson, who have yet to pit in front of him.
Yeah, that's going to stymie him for the next lap or so.
Something's got Bodefer in a twist. I didn't catch what that was.
Yeah, Bodefer's fallen off the wagon a bit in the final half of this race as Fisher's completed his stop. 17 seconds for him, which is roughly level with what we saw from Fripp and Kostovich. Pit lane, a hive of activity once again for the GT class. Orson Meireles with another pit stop time that is consistent with what we've seen from the other runners. Losing the position there to the 148 of Anthony Rossimano. A longer pit stop, but thanks to the way pit stop foibles work, he's managed to move ahead in the lane. Marcus Deck still has yet to jump into the lane. 21 lap stints, generally the way it goes in the prototypes at Sebring. So unless Marcus Deck decides to jump in early, we're probably going to see him out for at least 2 more laps. Or at most, I'd say 2 more laps, because then it would be a 21 lap stint there. You can extend the stint to 22 laps if you lift and coast a bit on each lap in the prototype, but this race being only 90 minutes, it's not really worth it.
I disagree with you. I reckon Deck's pitting this lap.
Alright, well, we'll see who's right then. Down the Ullman Straight he comes into Sunset Bend. There's no sunset this time around. It's well below the horizon at this stage. Coming up to 8:30 p.m. in sim time. And oh, look at that. You were right, David. In he comes.
Nostra David strikes again. Let's see if anyone else is going to follow him. Andrew Berry is just in the lane in front of him, kind of almost about to go a lap down, I guess. Sanders might go, but we've got to wait a little while for them to come around to see if they are pitting this lap. But just a little kind of 17-minute sprint to get to the end from here for Deck. He's not going to need a whole lot of fuel.
Yeah, it's going to be a nice short pit stop here for the number 30 RLR machine. Tyson Meyer in third. And fair way behind, he's going to be staying out for another lap here. Marcus Deck is going to rejoin the circuit in second place in prototype, with Graham Sanders looking to come in the next lap or so. Deck encountering traffic on pit exit, losing a little bit of time behind Zach Plummer here, but with the lead that he had before he came in, it's not going to hurt him at all.
No, you don't imagine so?
Tyson Meyer encountering, I believe that was Anthony Rossimano there in the Lamborghini. Especially up this northern end of the circuit where there's less light, really challenging to pick your way through as Macklemore brings it in for Team Tortuga. Looks like Johan Boyson already having come in for his second stop, just making his way onto the Ullman Straight now. So we'll see if this benefits him, if he'll move ahead of his teammate. What will Graham Sanders do as Macklemore exits his pit box? It looks like Boyson hasn't done enough to overcome his teammate, but Sanders staying out for another lap here.
Yeah, I'll find out what he had for breakfast as he just keeps on going. Second stops, final stops from everyone in GT though, and still some great battles like what we see here with Macklemore and Fisher for the final podium spot.
Yeah, Corey Macklemore has really come on strong in the second half of the race. Now properly challenging Jordan Fisher, and you can never count out Macklemore. He's nice and consistent. And, you know, despite qualifying down the order...
That is Lifton Coast City, is it not?
Looks like it might be.
Yeah, I mean, the stop for Macklemore was 4 seconds shorter than Fisher, talking 13 versus 17 seconds. He's obviously been saving at some other points in the race, but I'm seeing from Macklemore that he's also got to save from here to get home, I think.
Indeed. Well, he's got a fair bit of time to play with versus Johan Boyson, so I think that saving shouldn't hurt him too much. Having said that, though, Boyson currently involved in a battle with John Botifer, so their pace is going to increase as we see Sanders coming in for the final pit stop for his race. Hayden Gober is now the final car yet to come in for a stop, and if he continues for another lap from here, I'd be very surprised. Another bit of lift and coast there for Corey McLemore. I think both of these guys have done extremely well and truly deserve a podium position. Marcus Deck going to re-inherit the prototype lead, but right in the middle of a bunch of traffic. Sanders comes out and Tyson Meyer is a fair way behind him, so he's not in trouble there for second place.
Now, Hayden Gober is probably going to be the last car to pit for the whole race. I think that's everyone's stops done, barring calamity for Macklemore. He's still got to get down to his pit box, but he is on the lane for that stop. Boyson and Bodefer.
John Bodefer's come on strong in the final stint as well. Boyson's pit stop 1.2 seconds faster than John Bodefer's, so I think there might be a bit of fuel saving happening for that Team Tortuga BMW as well.
Definitely been their strategy for a good couple of races.
Right in the draft is Mr. Bodefer. Just minor corrections coming out of Sunset Bend. The bumps are especially extreme through Sunset. The car almost leaves the ground at the apex. The bumps are so extreme as there's a prototype making their way through. That is Hayden Gober getting through on both of those cars nice and cleanly in turn one. Doesn't seem to have hurt Bodefer too much. Oh, sorry, that's Andrew Berry in the number 81. Final round, and I'm still getting those Action Sim Sport cars confused, even when we just identify them by number in the night. Oh, bit of a lift there for Boyson to let Graham Sanders by. And that continues to keep Bodefer in the box seat for that 5th place in GT. Corey McLemore, meanwhile, still continuing to put the pressure on Jordan Fisher for 3rd. And with Tristan Iglesias's spin and crash, it's definitely brought in a couple of extra contenders for the GT podium. We've got a prototype making their way through there. That is Andrew Berry once again. They've got Graham Sanders for company 2. That is really brought Corey off the back of Jordan. Just having to lift a little bit more coming through the Gendebien and Le Mans complexes, and Berry lets Sanders go there. Goes a lap down on him.
This is a magic disappearing act here. You almost lose the second car, and then, oh, there he is. Bodefer, the Lamborghini, just sneaking in behind the BMW. Good line, tight line. That should give him a good run down towards turn one. He has to get out of the throttle just a little bit at the exit.
Very tight battle between these two.
What an interesting font that Huracan is.
Oh, no! Oh, dear. Bodefer getting massively crossed up in turn one. Keeps it out of the wall only just, though. Good to see. So he can keep going. But it's going to bring him into contention as change for position.
On Iglesias here. It's going to let Orson Mireles duck away from these two.
Iglesias battling with Aaron Ackles and a slight bit of contact between the two Lamborghinis. But Iglesias continuing his recovery after that spin. Now bringing himself up into 9th place in GT. Could be 8th before the end in these final 8 minutes. A little bit wide in the hairpin for Iglesias. Doesn't hurt you too much through the hairpin. If you end up running a bit wide, you can pick up the throttle a bit earlier and still get a good run down the flat-out section through the Fangio chicane. But I think just a matter of time here for Tristan Iglesias. If he wants to get that 8th place from Orson Mireles. They got Anthony.
Have one purple and one yellow LED strip. I thought both of them had to be the same color.
Yeah, interesting. Looks like they are indeed different colors, but I don't know, maybe maybe you can select them as different colors.
Got to buy Lamborghini then. Macklemore half a second faster than Fisher on the lap just gone. So the pressure's still on for 3rd place, and I think is the leader relative to them. 4 more laps to go for Fisher and Macklemore.
We'll see if there's a change for position for them, but it is a change for position between Zach Plummer and Bo Rigger. Plummer's just made his way by at Sunset Bend, and Rigger trying his best to get one back here on the Lamborghini. The draft is on, and big defensive line from Plummer. Rigger, though, sees the door open on the inside for turn 1 and goes back through. Oh, big oversteer and contact, and both of them spinning. More contact. Goodness me, that is huge. Big incident. So Rigger tried his best to go for the move at turn 1, but I think the tighter line compared with the bumps just sent him a bit awry. And Plummer, I mean, he was minding his own business there on the outside. Here is the replay and the move for Plummer at Sunset Bend. You see them coming across the line very shortly. Both of them getting into the grass. It was a very intense battle between these two guys, but Plummer defensive and then goes to take the wide line into turn 1. Rigger decides to try and sneak through, but oversteer on the exit, and Plummer got on the brakes, but then into the gravel and, well, just spears straight into Rigger once again. So that's probably some big damage for both of those cars. Doesn't hurt them much in terms of position. They have both lost out to David Browning, but at the end of the day, it is only for the minor positions there in GT.
Fisher's found a bit more speed and started to leave Macklemore. As you can see, lap 40, that's when it closed up half a second. Now it's gone back out another 6/10. It went out 5/10 the lap before. I think the pace is dropping off for Macklemore because he just doesn't have the fuel.
Yeah, I think in these final few minutes, he's just going to be lifting and coasting at every opportunity. He's still got a good gap to Johan Boyson behind as we check in on Orson Mireles. Still getting chased down by Tristan Iglesias. It's a 3-car battle with Aaron Ackles still in there as well. But Iglesias looking very quick through turn 3. Unfortunately not able to take advantage of it just because the track is so narrow and it's so twisty through there as well. It's not a place where you see big moves being made, but a little bit of a draft on the run up to the hairpin. Moves out and goes for it. Mireles, I think. Oh, that was just late for Tristan Iglesias. It's all falling apart for him here right at the end. And he has to go for a 3-point turn to get it back going on the tarmac. It might have been faster to just keep going on the grass. Either way, that is another position loss there for Tristan Iglesias.
Just totally missed his braking point in the dark there, I think. And then you imagine it would have been quicker to just keep going around the long way around the old circuit. Yeah, he's got ambitious and lost a whole jackload of time to Marlez and Ackles. He's going to stay ahead of Zach Plummer. But, oh gosh, you got to estimate it's cost him like 15 seconds or something there.
Yeah, that's 15 seconds that he wouldn't have wanted to lose. Bit of news from race control. They have reviewed the incident between Rigger and Plummer, and they've deemed it a racing incident. I think that's fair.
I mean, a penalty wasn't going to change much anyway either.
Nah.
You can count backwards on your fingers and toes now. It's going to be 2 to go when Marcus Deck comes around Sunset Bend into the line.
And it's been a typical flawless performance from Marcus Deck here, making his way past more GT traffic. Yes, he lost the lead to Graham Sanders on the first lap, but since then he has brought back the usual Marcus Deck flair and pace. I think he'll be taking this title in style. You could say the same for Dakota Fripp as well. His only real challenger, Tristan Iglesias, having not the best of nights here at Sebring. Just losing out and making mistakes where it mattered the most. So Dakota Fripp making next to no errors at all. And that's been the story of this championship, really. It's all been about who has been able to minimize their mistakes. And that's what's allowed them to come away with the lead in both classes. And it's typical for sports car racing as well. It's all about minimizing errors, keeping yourself on the track where your rivals fall down.
Just saw Dakota Fripp well ahead and clear, just minding his own business there. And from all of the little GT battles we had, Macklemore's faded, dropped back. We saw the contact for Rigger and Plummer. We saw Iglesias getting a bit deep on the brakes and ending up in a little bit of no man's land. And this means that this is the last battle we're going to have at the end here, as Deck right in the background there starts the final lap of the race. And therefore, it's going to be the final lap of the race for Myrles and Ackles as well, as they go a lap down now.
Indeed, it shall be. But with Deck making his way up the inside, it doesn't seem to have hurt Myrles that much. Ackles still has a few chances coming towards the end of the race. The braking zone at the hairpin, the braking zone at Collier, at Tower, at Gendebien and Le Mans too. It has a little bit of a look up the inside at the hairpin, but Myrles knows he is far enough ahead that he can keep that position no problem. But what more can you say about Marcus Deck that hasn't already been said? It's been a fantastic run for him all through this season. He's always been on the pace. He's always nailed the strategy. His only real flubs have been at Long Beach.
He's decimated the competition.
Haha. Funny, funny, haha. But I mean, 4 wins so far, and this is going to be his 5th win of the season. And his only real mistake again has been at Silverstone, where he finished 4th, but a great consistent run of results for Marcus Deck. Win number 5 for him and the prototype title. Big congratulations to RLR's number 30, locking the brakes across the line in celebration. truly a deserved title there for Marcus Deck. Graham Sanders is going to come home to finish in P2 and take a well-deserved second place in the championship. They've been so far ahead of everyone else in the points standings, the two-star competitors in the prototypes. And there are your fireworks, David, and I have to say, they're looking pretty good.
Well, thank you so much. They start going off when the overall leader crosses the finish line. Dakota Fripp, though, is going to come around just one more corner to go, and he's going to win the championship in the same style that Marcus Deck is going to do. The Fripp tide returns. It got a bit shaky in the middle of the championship. He's found his legs, found his form again, and this is going to be a classic win.
Certainly is. Win number 4 for Dakota Fripp. Won the first 3 races on the trot. Second place in the US. Third place at Hockenheim. But another well-deserved win for Dakota Fripp, and coming away with the GT Championship. I think that Tristan Iglesias will be ruining some of his mistakes, but he's still out there doing donuts in the runoff area at turn 1. Doing the sportsman-like thing and congratulating Dakota Fripp. And that tyre smoke will smell especially sweet for the number 109. So there we go. Unofficial results with Marcus Deck, Graham Sanders and Tyson Meyer. Your podium in the prototype class with Hayden Gober and Andrew Berry coming home 4th and 5th. Dakota Fripp wins in GT. Kostovich and Fisher complete the podium. Great drive from both Fisher and McLemore in the last stint to grab that 3rd and 4th, with Johan Boyson rounding out the top 5. Anthony Rossomano is going to come home in P6, making up 3 positions, with Orson Meireles making up 4 to finish in 7th. 8th, Aaron Ackles. Tristan Iglesias coming home in 9th place after a couple of spins, with Zach Plummer rounding out the top 10. David Browning, Bo Rigger, and Nick McLaughlin round out your GT field, with Jason Goddard, our sole retirement here, got a penalty and ultimately decided to pull it in. So there is your field, and wow, Marcus Deck, I mean, there's a fair chance that we won't be able to talk to him, because it is very early where he is in Germany at the moment. He doesn't want to disturb the other people in his household, but certainly if we were to have a chat to Marcus Deck, he would be a very happy camper. Well-deserved title.
Yeah, precisely. Another race where he just sort of held his nerve. Went wheel to wheel with Sanders for a while there, looked a little touch and go, but then Deck found that extra gear, didn't lose his cool whatsoever, and just brought it home very, very strong.
Well, brings it into the pit box. He can finally calm down. The title is run, done, and won. And as we enter our post-race coverage, first driver we're going to bring in for an interview, Graham Sanders, finishing P2 on track and P2 in the championship. Graham, it was a strong season for you, still challenging Marcus Deck right to the end.
Yeah, thank you. I appreciate that. Yeah, it was a tough season. It was a lot of fun. Marcus was quick all season long. Yeah, I mean, just a huge congrats to him. He deserved that. He dominated the season.
It was a pretty good run for you at the start. You got a better run off the rolling start than Marcus Deck did, and ultimately taking the lead from him and holding it for the first few laps of the race. So evidently, you still had a good car under you.
Yeah. The car felt amazing. I got lucky this round. The starting procedure that the admins went with was basically iRacing prompt, so I was able to get as good of a jump or better jump than Marcus, and it worked out in my favor. Luckily, turn 1 you can take the outside pretty well. So yeah, unfortunately, it only lasted a few laps, an alcohol race.
Well, nonetheless, still coming home in second place and securing P2 in the championship, and I guess you can look back on this season as a very strong one.
Definitely. I kind of wish more people kind of stuck around for the season. I know that I think the first round, I think we had like 10 or 11 drivers, and it was a blast. But I mean, it was fun all season long. I want to thank all of you guys at SimSpeed for putting this on the broadcast all season long. Omologato for sponsoring this season, and everyone at Geodesic. I really appreciate it, guys. Thanks.
Graham Sanders finishing P2 there, and certainly a season to be proud of for Geodesic Racing. Next up, David Haynes is stood by with our GT class champion.
Yeah, absolutely. Well done. Congratulations. Those fireworks are for you tonight, Dakota. You must be pretty pleased, I guess.
Yeah, I'm super pumped, super excited. Just happy that I put a lot of effort into this round in particular, because I just didn't want to have to I just don't want to lose again, like a race again, and so just put a lot of effort, a lot of practice, and I'm just happy I came away with the win at a relatively drama-free race. It's pretty great.
Sebring starting in the day, ending in the night. Your eyes got to adjust, or was it all good?
It was all good. I just made sure my settings were appropriate for the transition from day to night. But I did some practice as well when the sun was setting a little bit, so I can get used to the kind of glare going into sunset. So.
And how about tires for 90 minutes? Typically, we would have thought no dramas for the GT3 cars, and relatively mild conditions as well.
Yeah, I mean, the race started off pretty cold at the race start was at 7 p.m. So it was already around 28C track or so. So that made it a pretty easy choice, just staying on the same set of tires. It does get harder if the race was let's say starting at 40C to do that full run, but it was relatively easy. There was no issues really.
If a cappuccino is coffee with flavored milk and chocolate powder on top, what is a frappuccino?
Frappuccino is just a name that I came up with one day, just messing around with my last name. That is what a Frappuccino is.
Fantastic. Congratulations to you once again. I can tell you're pretty happy with that one, and you did bring it home in the style you started the championship. Anyone you need to thank?
Yeah, of course. My teammates on Venval Sim Racing, they helped me out with the setup, so that was really great. And of course, Geodesic for hosting the series, Omologato for being a partner in it, and of course you guys at SimSpeed for commentating over the broadcasts, and then of course to my my sponsors for the team, SimiCube and Draw Once. So I would like to thank everyone. It was a fun season with Spencer and Tristan. So yeah, look forward to the next one. Hopefully I can make it.
Look forward to it too.
Well, that was Dakota Fripp, GT class champion, and what we think might be the final driver interview of the night. Spencer Kostovich for Frozen Speed Full Send Racing joins us. P2 for you, Spencer. It was a bit of a challenge to keep up with Dakota, but it was still a case of pressuring to the end.
Yeah, I kind of went in with the mindset of I didn't do much practice because I didn't think that I really had a chance to even get to Tristan, let alone Dakota. So I've been pretty busy the past couple weeks, but I really like Sebring, and I knew that I would be fine as long as I had a decent setup. So I was banking on staying in the top 3 and whatever happens. I'm actually not sure if I'm not sure about the points now, what's happening with Tristan or his drop week or anything. So, but yeah, it was to be expected by me for sure.
Yeah, still a strong run for Frozen Speed Full Send, but obviously a few issues for Tristan along the way. So the title, unfortunately, out of that particular grasp, but I think you've still got a lot to be happy with over the course of the season. You will still be at least position 3 in the championship, so a very strong run for you.
Yeah, definitely. It was a lot of fun. I mean, not having the schedule isn't, or the championship isn't lined up with a particular schedule, so you're sort of on your own on most tracks in terms of setup. And I think that's something that I've really developed over this season. Something that I really needed to do was learn and get better at building setups. And as the course of the season went on, I really learned a lot. And just, racing with Dakota is definitely, I have to be on it 100% of the time, no matter what. And, I think that him pushing me to do that has only helped me in the end, and it's been a lot of fun. So,
well, still a great result for you to round off the season at Sebring. From your position on the podium, anyone that you would like to thank?
Yeah, of course. Like to thank my family. Like to thank Frozen Speed, Full Send Racing, Tristan, all the guys that are watching, and all the people that are watching the stream, and all the things you guys do for the league is incredible. As you know, so that's pretty much it.
Thank you very much, Spencer. That is Spencer Kostovich, P2 at the end of the day in the GT class at Sebring. Well, bringing to an end proceedings for tonight and for the championship, David, it looks like Corey McLemore may have won the Gentleman's Championship with another 0 incident round, so we should be giving our congratulations to him as well.
Yeah, that's almost equally impressive as the other championships, to be so clean across all 8 races, while also, still doing good pace. He wasn't trundling around at the back. We saw him, battling for the podium, finishing in 4th, while also just very calm, very measured, not losing his head at any point through the championship. And we've seen it wasn't all smooth sailing for everyone, so he's risen above that. Very impressive, very clean season from Corey McLemore.
Indeed. Well, it's time for us to say goodbye here on SimSpeed TV. It's been an honor to cover this championship. Reminder one more time, if you are shopping on the Omologato website, getting a motorsport-inspired watch for your wrist, you can get a free silicone wristband with the promo code SPEED2021 at checkout, and we'll also be drawing the winner after this round of our Twitter giveaway. So if you haven't done that yet, make sure that you do that and follow the instructions in David Haynes' tweet at Haynes Racing. One more highlight, the Omologato Can-Am watch, certainly a great inspiration from the history of sports car racing in America. We want to give a big thanks to Omologato for sponsoring this championship, and we hope that we can see you more in the future. It's been great, guys. Big thanks. And a big thanks to Geodesic Racing as well for putting this championship on. We've been covering their championships for a while now, and it's always great to get some American sports car racing in on SimSpeed TV. And we certainly hope that next season is just as good, if not better, than this season we've had now. Marcus Deck, your prototype champion. Dakota Fripp, your GT champion. Corey McLemore, we believe in the top position in the Gentleman's Championship as well. All 3 titles decided here tonight. From all of us at SimSpeed TV, bye for now, but not forever. I'm Reese Gardner, David Haynes alongside me, and Jay Kennedy making everything happen behind the scenes. Hopefully, we'll be seeing you next season for whatever Geodesic Racing decides to put on next.
Fantastic. This is GT Racing right now.
He's got traction. He's got everything outside of both of them. Maloney.
Oh, he's taking Anderson. Anderson's up top.
Oh my God. Big crash. Oh my goodness. Half the field's going to get rolled.
Second very close. These guys are want to make their way through the field very quickly.
Oh, there we go.
Oh no! That's massive! This is it! This is over! I can't believe this! Oh my God!
God, what?